I've been thinking recently so much about what's going on in the world with conflict about all sorts of things, about what to do about climate change and global issues, and seeing people blaming livestock or blaming fossil fuels or blaming this or that or arguing about what, veganism and hunting and all sorts of things. And I've been here in Victoria Falls. We're about 40 km from Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. This is our other home. I spend quite a lot of the year here with my children, working on regenerating land for wildlife and local communities, and educating children and adults on things like this. And I watch my kids as they grow up here, and right now they're sitting down in the river there catching little fish and chatting and whatever, and I'm kind of keeping an eye out for crocodiles and lions and elephants and whatever other wildlife we have around. And I did a post of them the other day, and someone said, "Oh, it's so nice, they're free-range kids." And that got my train of thought really going, and I thought, that's it, that's the key. So we have this world of conflict and chaos and ecological disaster, and this pandemic that's going on at the moment. And I look at the world and I see I think a lot about the vegan movement and the extremism that comes with that, and the violence and hatred towards people that choose not to be vegan. I'm not a vegan. I don't touch any meat as far as is humanly possible, or animal products that come from factory farms, because I think that's barbaric. But I definitely eat meat and vegetables and anything that's been regeneratively or responsibly farmed or grown. And every single thing human beings use or consume comes from the land and eventually goes back to the land. And the more unnatural the product, or the more unnaturally it's produced, the more ecologically damaging it has been wherever it's produced. And then I was looking at factory farms, and I was thinking, we factory farm animals, and we have, and that's not the animals' fault. We can't blame livestock. Our management and our policies have put animals in these factory farms. We've genetically altered animals to do whatever we want them to do. So, and we've done it with crops and foods as well, and other foods as well as livestock and animals. But if you look at cattle now, we have milk producing cattle, we have meat producing cattle. And if you look at nature, everything nature does is about the bigger picture. It's about the whole. It's about... Do you want to chat too? It's about the survival of the strongest, the fittest genes, the best genes, the most intelligent, etc. And we might think nature is cruel, and we do think nature is cruel. And I mean, just this week when we've been here, I've seen, just in this river the other day, I was watching a little beautiful red dragonfly flying around, and it landed on a piece of grass, and a spider grabbed it, got hold of it, and it went shooting off down the river here. It was flowing a bit more, and it went all the way down the rapids and ended up down there. I followed it down the river, I walked down, and nature isn't kind in our eyes, but everything nature does is in consideration of the whole species. And nature relies on balance of every species being in balance with each other, from microorganisms to grasses to trees to birds to insects to lions to elephants to everything in that ecosystem is designed to be in balance. So predators hunt these huge herd of animals, like a lion out here. We had a lion killed the other day, and they keep these animals bunched together on the move, and they pick off the slowest, the weakest, etc. And that ensures the strength of the whole herd. Like that ensures the best genetics get through. So now when we come along and we start factory farming animals and we start messing with genes and genetics, we create weaker and weaker and weaker animals, and we put them in these factory farms. So not only do we create genetically weak animals for survival, we also create genetically weak animals for disease. So then we pump the animals in these factory farms full of antibiotics and steroids and all sorts of things, and then we're consuming those as well. So it's just this vicious cycle of making everything weaker and more unhealthy and less natural. And then I thought about it a bit more, and I was like, hang on. When that person made that comment about my children being free range, I thought human beings are factory farming themselves. So we are moving more and more and more into these big cities. So if you look at a factory farm of animals, say chickens or pigs or anything, cattle, they're living in artificial conditions with artificial light, artificial air, artificial food, artificial drugs, all these artificial things keeping them alive and growing them. But that's exactly what we're doing to ourselves. We, humans living in cities, are factory farming themselves. So they're living in artificial lights, artificial air, artificial environment, artificial culture, because we're not designed to be separate from each other. Artificial everything. Our food is artificial, our clothes are getting more and more artificial, so everything is getting more and more unnatural. And then we have, and because that's what I was thinking about, is the vegan products that we're producing beyond, we're producing this more and more artificial food that's more and more damaging to us, which means we'll create more and more disease. So if you look at this pandemic around the world, look at where people are factory farming themselves. Look at the big cities. That's where we're seeing much more death, and we're cramped. We're not healthy. We don't have fresh air. We're disconnected from nature. And in places like this in Zimbabwe, we're seeing it a lot less, unless it's in the cities. And it just really hit home with me that we've started factory farming ourselves unwittingly, and we need to get back to the laws of nature, which is exactly what the work that I do does. Holistic decision making, holistic management ensures that when we make decisions, when we buy things, when we farm things, when we do anything, we're making sure that that decision is socially sound, socially and culturally sound, economically sound, and ecologically regenerative. So we're always looking big picture, like nature does, and we're always considering and balancing all the aspects that our decisions come with, so that we don't end up making these ridiculously reductionist decisions which are destroying our entire planet. So right now I'm really passionately working on, with many other passionate people, on creating the first ever national holistic policy for a country, which means they make policy decisions in line with the national holistic context developed by the citizens of that country, and a holistic context is just a statement tying the collective health and wealth and stability of physical and financial stability of that country and all the people to the environment. And so if we were making policies in line with that, we would change the world very quickly. We'd see the end of factory farming. We'd see the end of monoculture and industrial agriculture. We'd see a reconnect with nature. And so that's been on my mind a lot, and I hope that this worked after all of that and you can actually hear me.